He basically exploited and took full advantage of the care system and the benefits that are provided for people who are in genuine need of help of everyday living. And he showed absolutely no remorse and no guilt and has been in denial ever since.
So in the end, today's cheat on his feet got beat. I'm sorry, Abdul, but as Bucks Fizz once said, the camera never lies. For now, though, we're going to leave those fiddling the benefit system and concentrate on people in genuine need of some help. After a few tough years caring for their son Matthew, who has Down syndrome and autism, Paul and Carole's life hit breaking point when their second son Ryan was also diagnosed with autism.
I wasn't coping emotionally, so I went through various bouts of depression.
Carole was forced to give up her job and help her husband Paul, who was Matthew's full-time carer. But with neither of them working, 2 kids to feed and rent to pay, the debts quickly spiralled out of control.
We kind of got ourselves into a bit of a dark spot, and owing catalogues and loans, and there wasn't enough money coming in to cover them. We didn't know where to turn, who to turn to.
Financially, they just wanted more money than we were earning. We just couldn't afford it.
Carole and Paul were facing some uncertain times ahead, and like all of us, at one point or another, they needed a helping hand. Carole was put in touch with the George Hardwick Foundation, a charity that offers help to those caring for loved ones.
I think a lot of people like Carole come to us for support in difficult times. In the past, many people would get into major financial difficulty. They'd run up debts that they couldn't pay, and they'd come to us when they're in crisis.
Paul and Carole desperately needed someone to look at whether they were entitled to any additional benefits. Having a little more income would completely transform the quality of life for the whole family. And after a few weeks of making phone calls and form filling, there was finally something to smile about.
Our benefits advice workers helped her claim carer's allowance, which they were getting for Matthew, and they didn't realise that they could actually, because one was caring for Matthew full-time, the other could actually claim it for Ryan as well.
It meant the pressure was off and we were allowed to live a little.
It makes a big difference, even if it's, only a small amount every week or every month. That can actually be a huge benefit to certain people.
But for Carole, the support she needed wasn't just financial. The years of spending all her spare time with the boys with no help from anyone outside of the family had slowly but surely run her into the ground.
You disappear as a person and your home life takes over and it absorbs you to the point where there isn't anything else. That's it.
If you're looking after a child, you're doing it 24/7, your world revolves around that. You don't have time for a social life necessarily, and I think all carers are like that.
Carole was put in touch with a support group where carers get together over a cuppa and talk through the stresses and strains of bringing up kids that need a lot of help.
It took me a good few months before I did pluck up the courage to go. And when I did go, they were brilliant. They sat, they listened to me bubble. It was great, just having somewhere to go that understood. I'd found an outlet. I wasn't getting depressed. I was coping better at home, which in turn meant the pressure was taken a little bit more off Paul.
But it didn't stop there. The foundation has all sorts of facilities that Carole and the boys can use, from a relaxation centre with massage rooms to an in-house cinema for afternoons out, something which for years had seemed almost impossible.
Walking the kids to the local park, that's not an option for us. Being put in touch with other families as well, that had a great impact on our lives.
We've been able to help Carole, Paul, Ryan and Matthew to go on family days out, to enjoy some quality time together as a family, and particularly for couples, for Carole and Paul, that's really important that they're able to do that.
We were doing things as a family. I'm not saying it was easy. It still had its challenges, it still had its struggles, but we were out there and we were doing it. and previous to that we hadn't been.
The George Hardwick Foundation had worked wonders for Carole, Paul and the boys, but just at the point when they were starting to get a grip on things, they were thrown another curveball. Matthew will turn 19 in a few months' time, which means the benefits he currently receives will soon stop. Now, this money is vital for the family's financial survival, so it's understandably a major concern. Luckily for Carole, the Foundation's benefit advisors on hand to help the family plan ahead.
Hi, Jeff.
The concerns for Carole at this point in time were that her son Matthew, who's turning 19 in February, and there's all sorts of changes coming through at that stage in his life. So basically, with him approaching 19, the options are to make a choice. Does he claim benefits in his own right, or do we continue in terms of the child benefit and child tax credit sides of things, which you currently get for him?
Making the right decision will be crucial if the family's going to continue to keep their heads above water. But Carole's confident she's now in safe hands.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. We're not hitting crisis points now. If we know something's coming up, like a major change that's about to happen, we'll make an appointment and we'll get some more benefits advice.
Organisations such as the George Hardwick Foundation provide peace of mind. They provide a safety blanket for carers when they need it. You know, they don't need it every day, but when they do need the support, there's somebody here.
Carole's life's been changed beyond recognition, and knowing just how much she's been helped, she's wanted to give something back. She now heads up a support group called Stockton United for Change.
Yeah, the reason I'm here today is my son's got autism. And,
because we are parents, we know what the parents are going through. We've been there.
Benefit fraud that could be rinsing the public purse of tens of thousands of pounds. Tell me about your team and what you do.
Well, I've got a team of 10 investigation staff. Our job is to look at any allegation of fraud across the borough of Croydon. We've got a whole variety of ways we do that. We have access to paper records. We've got technology that we use as well.
And they were going to need it, because this was looking like no other ordinary case. They'd already uncovered claims from a number of hijacked identities linked to several empty and derelict flats.
A lot of the claims came from St James's Road, which is right in the heart of the borough. But we noticed there were some as far north as Silverley Road and all the way out in the south to Gobston Road.
One of the names on their radar, Emmanuel Ickham, was the only benefits claimer they could verify had a genuine national insurance number and was based in Croydon. But after months of trawling boarded-up houses and sifting through council records, they'd hit a dead end. That was until a call came in from a local bank who suspected one of their customers was doing something a bit dodgy. I know what you're thinking, but no, it wasn't Emmanuel Ickham.
They were looking into accounts in the name of Jermaine Douglas, and they noticed that there were a number of housing benefit payments going into 3 accounts, and they were wanting clarification.
The team had a new name in their sights, Jermaine Douglas, whoever he is. Here's the interesting bit. Not only was he registered as living at the same address as some of the fake claimants, but he was getting their housing benefit payments.
For each of those claims, he was getting as much as £160 a week going into each of those accounts.
Maths isn't my strong point. But if they're getting 160 quid a claim, multiply that by 10 or so claims, then that is... that's quite a lot. But it's just the tip of the iceberg. The team soon traced more of the fake claim payments to other accounts, this time in the name of Daniel Adelasoye. And that wasn't all.
A number of claims, they were asking for benefits to be paid into business accounts. When we made inquiries, we found that that account was in the name of Ickham.
So it looked like Ickham, Douglas and Adelasoye were up to their necks in it, and even using business accounts to try to further disguise the fact that they were creaming benefits to the tune of tens of thousands of pounds. With 3 names and 3 accounts, it was looking like a gang. That's what Graham Clark thought, anyway, until he saw their photographs.
We'd already obtained driving licences in the names of Ickham and Jermaine Douglas. In our opinion, they were the same person.
Well, I mean, there is an uncanny resemblance, but they could be twins with different names. No. If the team's hunch was right, and Ickham and Douglas were the same person, they'd be a step closer to unravelling this fraud.
We needed a professional opinion, so we went back to the National Anti-Fraud Network.
All the team could do now was wait anxiously for the outcome.
They confirmed that they were the same person.
This was a key moment because many of the payments of housing benefits had been sent to a bank account in the name of Jermaine Douglas.
We now knew that Jermaine Douglas was Ickham and Ickham was Douglas.
Quite simple, really. Ickham told the authorities he was now called Jermaine Douglas, then reapplied for a passport in that name. Once you've got the passport, you can get a bank account, one with a different name, to funnel false claimants' money through. But that wasn't all they found.
We also knew that, the documents that we held, that there was a driving licence in the name of Daniel Adesoya that had the photograph of Emmanuel Akeem and Jermaine Douglas on it. So we knew we were dealing with one person at this stage and not a gang.
So Ickham was posing as 3 different people, which would make him 3 times as hard to catch, I suppose. Well, in theory. So you've got 3 separate identities for Emmanuel Akeem. Does it stop there? What happens next?
Well, this has been a very complex fraud over a number of years, but still quite a short period. Set up so many identities and successfully used them to get into the benefit system. I mean, I've been investigating fraud for about 15 years, and this has been a very, very complex fraud to have committed. What we're doing now is we're starting to look down at how many times
14 different identities.
the housing benefit loss to the public purse has been in excess of £127,000. Now, that's a substantial amount of money.
You might be wondering what sort of a family a benefits cheat comes from. Well, take Mrs. Ickham. I think you'd like her. Honest, trustworthy. You know, the sort of person that would report someone to the council if she thought they were up to no good.
Hello?
We actually had a telephone call from Mrs. Akeem, and she was concerned that there was mail arriving at her own address for somebody that she thought might be committing benefit fraud. Now, as it turned out, this was one of the aliases, one of the false claims that her son was running.
So not only yet another crooked claim to add to the list, but he's now been dobbed in by his own mother. Surely the game is up.
Mr. Akeem was arrested on the 1st of June 2012. He attended an interview under caution, and at the interview under caution he chose to read out a pre-prepared statement. Following the statement, he answered all of our questions as no comment. He did at this time also proclaim that he had committed no fraud.
The team wasn't buying it, but when it wound up in court, would the judge?
The defence made great play about the fact that he was a regular churchgoer in an attempt to portray him as somebody of good character. But as far as we're concerned, that's totally irrelevant. This was a very high-profile fraud which involved a large degree of sophistication and planning.
And the Goody Two-Shoes Act wasn't fooling anyone. He ended up pleading guilty to making 13 false housing benefit claims, defrauding Croydon Council out of around £99,000. And for that, he got 2 years in the slammer. Inevitably, it was going to come crashing down, wasn't it? With so many identities.
I think with so many identities, it always was going to come crashing down around him, purely because he'd made it so complex for himself to run or to continue to run this fraud.
It's a great result, but there's still one mystery.
He's never explained where he found those names and how he started using them.
I've been doing this job for 20-odd years, and I've only come across similar cases maybe 6 or 7 times.
He'd have only put as much energy and enthusiasm into doing the right thing instead of the wrong thing. He could have been a formidable talent.
This is just pure greed and nothing else.
So the fraud team's work finally paid off. After sorting through numerous addresses and identities, Ickham is now living where he should be, at Her Majesty's pleasure.